Hi everyone. So instead of doing the Draw My Life video, because it was really hard to come up with things to draw with what I was talking about, because it is kind of not your traditional Draw My Life video, and so I just thought that I'd sit here with my mom and we could talk about, my cleft history and everything like that, because that was basically what the video was going to be about. So, well, I was born on June 5th, 1998 at about 9 a.m. and I was 5 pounds and 5 ounces, so I was kind of tiny.
Yes, she was.
And then, actually, people thought my mom was faking the pregnancy and after I was born, because I was so little and it was so easy for me to get sick that, strangers have, unknown germs. So, of course, she's like, don't touch her. Don't breathe on her.
So one time I can remember being at Walmart with her, and she was a little tiny girl in her little baby carrier, right, that we all had. And there was I was in the card aisle. I was looking for a card for something. And anyways, these little ladies wanted to see my baby. And I had her covered up, a blanket. It was June, so it was hot, so I had it kind of over the top so that, she could still get air ventilation and stuff. But, she was still tiny, so I didn't want her to get sick. And she was very susceptible to all kinds of germs because she, little kids that have health problems and surgeries and stuff, their immune system gets compromised. And I knew that, so I just said, no, that's okay. So then they turned around and they started whispering to each other that they thought I was faking, that there wasn't really a baby in there. And I just always thought that was extremely hilarious. Mm-hmm. I just didn't want them to breathe on my kid.
And get me sick.
And get her sick, right?
Yeah.
Again, some more.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so after Ramsey was... After we were dismissed from the hospital, we had special bottles and nipples to feed her. And I actually cut an X in the nipple. And the bottles were squeezable bottles. And I actually pumped so she could have breast milk. Mm-hmm. And I would squeeze the milk into her little mouth for over a year. I did that.
Yeah, because if I drank it, when I swallowed, you know how your tongue pushes it down your throat, but my tongue doing that, it came out my nose.
Her nose, yes.
And so it didn't go all the way down. So my mom kind of had to squirt it kind of down, so I'd get the nutrients.
So we kind of had to hold her in an upright position and squirt that in there
instead of laying down.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, then after we went to Boys Town National Research Hospital, they diagnosed Ramsey with Stickler syndrome and with a Pierre-Robin sequence. And Stickler syndrome is we actually have several books.
Yeah.
So I kept a baby journal.
Yay!
And I documented all of her stuff.
Yeah.
To include definitions of what it was. And then I also have Ramsey's medical records because... we just aren't there yet where these follow her electronically from place to place and state to state, which breaks my heart, but hopefully someday we'll get there. But in the meantime, I carry her medical records around with me.
Otherwise, it's all in her head.
Otherwise, it's just in my head, and sometimes I don't always explain things. I'm not clinical healthcare, I'm IT healthcare, so I don't always explain things the best to the clinicians. Anyways, so Stickler syndrome is... bone and joint or genetic tissue disorder. So basically she's missing one strand in the strand of DNAs, and actually she's missing a different one than her sibling is missing. And their issues are more bone and joint and eye, and hers were cleft and ENT. And anyway, so
ENT is ear, nose, and throat.
Yeah, ENT is ear, nose, and throat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyways, so some of the features that they have also are a flat forehead, flat nose, and a flat chin. I can remember when the kids were 4 and 2, people would often comment that my kids were, they looked like twins. And people would say they were like Cabbage Patch babies. And I thought it was sweet. I thought it was awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to have Cabbage Patch babies? But
right?
anyways, so that's kind of where that came from and what Stickler syndrome is. And if you want to know more about it, you can always Google it. And Pierre Robin also, I think that sequence came in because of the significance of her cleft, and it wasn't just like one-sided, and it was complete on both sides. So it was bilateral
and
rather than a unilateral.
Yeah, the definition.
And it went all the way back into her soft palate and pretty much down into her throat, because she did have to have a VPI surgery, which is that pharyngeal flap in the back of her throat that is for like g and
Sure.
is it puh, like those sounds,
Like an N.
yeah,
Just those deep vowel sounds.
right. So anyways, that's kind of more about Stickler syndrome and Pierre Robin sequence. We followed, like I said, I think I mentioned this earlier in one of the videos, but we followed Boys Town National Research Hospital and that craniofacial team for years. 4 years, 5 years. And she pretty much had a surgery every year for her cleft.
For 5 years.
For 5 years. And that included her VPI. And in the interim of that, she had, so in between all of those surgeries, we also had to coordinate surgeries to maintain and correct dental
and ears.
and ear, dental, and I don't know what they would call them, like her teeth didn't come in like our teeth would come in.
So they kind of went all over. I had some like came in the roof of my mouth,
and she had some in like the bottom of her jaw, and so she's missing several teeth to begin with. I think like 17. I'm not
16, something like
positive.
that.
Sure, I would have to look it up to be sure. But anyways, this is what the top of her jaw did look like when she was about 3. And you can see how tiny that is.
That's a tooth right there.
So this is the top,
That's a tooth.
actually. Yeah, and that's a tooth. And you can see how tiny that is, and it's really little. And Ramsey actually ended up losing most of these teeth because, unfortunately, because she was a cleft baby, her nutrition was also extremely poor. And that wasn't really a lacking on my part. So what happens is they miss developmental milestones as a child when you're introducing foods to them because they can't have some of the same introductions
Our
to
taste
food.
buds are kind of compromised from all like the medicine also, and so they don't really taste the same. And I have scar tissue all along the top of my mouth from all the cleft surgeries, so foods definitely do not taste the same. I pay attention more to texture than I do taste.
So between her scar tissue, so when you're consuming food, you choose to so your taste buds and the roof of your mouth actually kind of work in conjunction. So because hers is mostly scar tissue, she didn't see or taste or feel things in her mouth like we would. So she often refused them. And being so young, she, there really wasn't a way for us to explain it to her.
Yeah.
So
I was just like, no.
She ate a lot of Pediasure. She ate a lot of baby cereals. She ate a lot of baby food. She ate a lot of, we used to call her the condiment lover. She loved condiments.
Oh my God.
And sometimes I would give in and just let her have it. So she ate peanut butter in a bowl, ranch in a bowl, ketchup in a bowl. I used to carry honey packets in my purse with me to give her. I actually still sometimes give her that now with this surgery, which is kind of weird.
It's kind of cool because like I'm able to eat and drink and do the same things that I was able to when I was younger. So it kind of made the whole process of eating this go around easier.
Yeah, it kind of because I already had that experience from her previous surgery, so it was kind of similar to that. Anyways, I think that's so she basically lost all of her teeth at the top, and so she had a kitty partial. So like an old person's dental partial or denture partial.
Kind of to hold the place of the teeth I was missing, so my permanent teeth can take my baby teeth spot. Yeah.
Anyways, it was super cute. When it was permanent, so we had it affixated in her mouth, and then when her large teeth or her permanent adult teeth came in, then it just kind of pushed it out of the way. Anyways, after her large teeth came in, she actually got braces. So this would have been maybe, I think, 9. I wish I would have put the dates on these, but I wasn't that smart. Anyways, it's probably wrote down in her baby book. But here's another one. And you can see the roof of her mouth is still super tiny. And I think this actually might have been...
Oh, I had a
palate expander.
I had an
Might have been
expander.
back here to try to help stretch that
We
scar
had
tissue.
to crank it similarly to when we cranked my jaw forward.
Yep.
It was a different tool though, and my mom did it every night, and it kind of just spread my expander, my palate more, so my back teeth would align more correctly because my top palate was very, very small, and my bottom jaw is not.
So we basically went from adult teeth like this to adult teeth like this. And that's our puppy's nose. Anyways, just wanted to share those things. Also, I wanted to share one other thing. After some of Ramsey's surgeries when she was so tiny, and she was learning to walk, right? Because most kids learn to walk and they're about 12 months, 18 months old. I actually can remember pushing her down more towards when she was 1 year old. And not because I didn't want her to walk or didn't want to hit that milestone, but I knew that she had a surgery coming up, and I knew it'd just be another obstacle that we would have to kind of overcome. I kind of did the same thing with potty training. I waited till after her surgery that we had that summer when she was 3 before I really worked on her with potty training, because I knew that was going to be hard for her to sustain that kind of training or those potty training efforts because of the surgery and the extent of it, and basically being in bedridden for a week.
And when you're learning to walk, you're little and you tend to fall down. And
Right, and I didn't want her to fall down and hurt herself.
Yeah.
And they give them these, here, can you show them? They give them these arm holders.
There.
Yeah, braces. They put braces on their little arms because they don't want anything to go into their mouth. And that was her crib. Looks like a little cage. And they actually would put an air mist bubble over that. So she would get moisture for healing purposes, I believe. I'm not really sure. Anyways, but the little arm things would keep her from putting things in her mouth, and then
Touching
also
and playing.
touching, playing,
That's
and
sad.
so she was kind of, pretty dependent on us after those surgeries for quite a while. I can't exactly remember. If I would have to read how long she had to stay in there. This is what the mist bubble looks like. If you can see this, more up close. Here's what they put her in that. She's so cute. She's such a tiny little thing compared to now. But anyways, that's kind of more of the history on the Stickler syndrome and the Parabane sequence that she was diagnosed with, and the cleft palate, and how cleft palates can be different because they can either be unilateral, bilateral, they can either be just in the palate or the hard and soft, and they can also be lip. So a lot of times kids can have a cleft palate or a unilateral palate and a unilateral lip, and sometimes kids
Which is one side.
And then some kids will have bilateral palate and bilateral lip. And so then those kids have to have plastic surgery and reconstruction, not only, in their mouth, but also on the outside.
So I was kind of lucky. I had it just on the inside, and it went all the way back to my throat, and I actually didn't even have a uvula.
And I actually did a study, or I did a research paper when I was in college, my first year, first few years of college, for biology on the gene sequences. And it's actually just one gene off from her brother, and it's just one gene off, so it's just a matter of missing one gene, otherwise she would have had a cleft lip.
And
or
actually,
a bilateral lip.
And I actually got my cleft palate from my dad, and he got it from his dad. And when they did the genetic testing, we learned that it's typical for the second child in our family to be born with the cleft palate. And so that's how I know that my kids will have this, and I want kids regardless. I'm just preparing myself now to make sure I'm ready for those obstacles.
Right. So during